But Diana,
Did Enno get on yet?
No, Enno hasn't arrived.
I found out on my way to Harlem, Ellington, you don't live around here. He moved away one day, so they say, from Harlem. I can hear his echo still. Now, you can't keep me away from where I was born. I was baptized by my daddy's horn. Now, you can't keep me away from where I was born. I was baptized by the jazz man's horn. Oh, I found out on my way through Harlem. Langston Hughes, he don't live round here. He moved away one day from his way here in Harlem. I know that Marvin Gaye used to play right here. Somebody say you can't keep me away from where I was born. I was baptized by my daddy's horn.
I'm going to try to get Enno right now.
You can't keep me away from where I was born. I was baptized to the sound of horns.
Stu, at 5:10, we can go ahead and start, okay? That's 2 minutes from here.
Okay.
Hello, Diane.
Hi, Doris. How you
Hi.
did make it? Hi.
Okay, yeah. Hi, how are you?
Great. I'm glad to have you here.
Ruth, what development are you from?
I saw Carlton's on also. Okay.
Okay. Dan, what development is Doris from?
I'm sorry.
What development is Doris from?
Campos Plaza.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to introduce you properly. Are you the president?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Are you the TA president?
Yes, I'm the TA leader here, yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we're getting ready to go.
way to Harlem. Ellington, you don't live around here. He moved away one day, so they say, from Harlem. I can hear his echo still. Now, you can't keep me away from where I was born.
Good evening. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources to hopefully help improve your life. I'm Stu Reed, and I'm here with my UBI, Universal Basic Income team for a special broadcast. We have Miss Diana Blackwell, who's the president of the Fred Samuel Resident Association and a Harlem community activist. And Diana's been the driving force in bringing together a Harlem-based UBI group. We also have Mr. Carlton Davis, who's the president of Grant Houses Resident Association and a public housing safety and technology advocate. We have Ms. Doris Huff, president of the Resident Association at Compost Plaza. And a very special guest today, Ms. Ruth Westcott. Ruth has worked for over 30 years to service over 2 million of the lowest income people in the province of Ontario, Canada, who are dying prematurely due to poverty. She is an expert in basic income, and in addition to creating a blog with over 80,000 readers, is an active lobbyist and frequent advocate in the national media to change government policy. Welcome to Community and Technology, Ruth.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay.
Ruth, can you turn your
I would like to.
mic or maybe get a little bit closer? Your volume's just a little low, and we don't want to miss
Oh,
all that you have to say.
okay.
Diana, you want
I would like to let you know that we do have someone else on the line. You might not be able to hear his audio, but we have Miguel Walters also. And he
Okay.
is yes, he's a community liaison for the NYPD PSA 6.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Let me correct this. Miguel, what's your last name, Miguel?
Walters.
Okay. So, Diana, where should we begin? Miss Westcott has incredible background
Yes.
up there in Ontario, Canada, working with UBI. So I guess we want to hear from her, maybe to tell us a little bit about your story, Ruth, how you became involved in the UBI and what you're doing.
Thanks, Stu. I'd love to. And hi to everyone else on the call. It's quite the introduction. And I just wanted to say that I'm an expert in poverty because I've been poor for that long, first of all. And I've been a volunteer, a community volunteer, working as an advocate for the low-income community. And I did things like working on a campaign to raise the rates of social assistance, which is a thankless task. But the good part about doing that is that I love to work in groups as a peer with disenfranchised folks and turn their legitimate anger into political action. And if you do it right, you can turn people into lifelong activists. And that's what my experience has been in these all peer groups, in these caucus groups. And that doesn't happen in some other groups that I've been in. And it's just, that's an interesting phenomena for me. It wasn't my idea. I mean, in the human rights movement, when all Black people met together, they noticed that sometimes the dynamic can change when a white person came. And that doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean we can't work together, but it's an interesting way to raise consciousness and to raise power. And that's my expertise. But I didn't have a lot to offer my people in terms of money. Like, it didn't work. And I had many very sterling mentors along the way, and politicians who had been, were teaching me the ropes. And my question was always, how do we get more money? Because, well, I'd had this experience in my community, a credit union picked somebody with disabilities. They picked me to put into a mortgage. This was in 2011. And they lent me the down payment for a house. But the credit union gives everybody rebates, all the members, right? They lent me my own member rebates for the down. And it was, I found a bank repo listed for $29,000. So I got into the housing market, and then I got government grants to renovate, and my whole life changed because having economic power is sometimes correlated to health. I mean, some people say it's the most powerful social determinant of health, that income is. But so I had an asset, I didn't really have income, and I got, my health improved for a while, but I still didn't have more income. And then I got enrolled in the Ontario Basic Income Pilot. That was random that happened recently, a couple of years ago. And so when my income went from way below the poverty line up to the poverty line, my health improved so dramatically that I got well enough to be employed. And I hadn't been well enough to do that for about 30 years. I mean, not much. I tried, I always tried. The bottom would fall out. And I mean, a lot of people that I know with disabilities that are intermittent, like people with mental health and addiction problems and autoimmune diseases, that they can never predict when they are going to need help. And so what I did during the Basic Income Pilot was organize a speaker school for people like me who had been on social assistance, and they'd been on welfare before the pilot, and then they were in the pilot, and we could talk about the difference without any kind of prompting from press or university researchers or professionals or anyone, just the truth in the safety of a peer-only circle. And people gave us that feedback. They said they heard from people who don't usually talk because we did create that feeling of safety. And it was amazing to see there were 1,000 of us in the pilot in this town, in my hometown of Thunder Bay, and 1,000 people made plans for the future in 1,000 different ways that were right for them, and people did well. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you give poor people more money, they're going to do well. But what might be interesting to most people, what they might not realize, is how fast we got better. And that's especially true with people with mental health problems. So I think that sometimes the province of Ontario in Canada is saying that we're losing our shirt paying for disability pensions for people with mental illness. And it's true that the roles are increasing and the costs are increasing, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But it doesn't have to be like that. And we can see lots of evidence that a basic income that is adequate and that is unconditional could largely fix that. And I'm working my guts out to try to make that happen in Canada now during COVID.
Wow, that's quite a story. So
Yes.
the program, the basic income program began in 2011, is that right?
Well, no. So I was in a program of one person in 2011 where a local credit union helped me get into a mortgage. And my health improved a little because having assets having economic power is related to health. But I still didn't have more income. I was still on disability, on welfare. And it wasn't until the Ontario Basic Income Pilot in 2016 that my income went up to the poverty line. Mm-hmm. I was getting $1,915 Canadian dollars a month, and that is about what the poverty line for Ontario was at the time. and it was about double what I had been getting before, and everything changed.
Mhm.
And everyone I met said the same thing, that it was this universal positive experience. I mean, there's a couple of caveats, and that's important. I want to talk about who was not better off, but for the large majority, it was a profoundly beneficial experience, and people loved talking about it. So the speaker school idea was about talking to the media, getting people skills in public speaking and getting them comfortable telling their story to the media. But what ended up happening is we mostly told our stories on social media and bypassed the media so that we could have control, and that was empowering too. So we did both. But the Ontario government canceled the pilot before it was over. When the Conservative government took power, there was an election, the Conservatives won, they canceled it. And people were devastated because they had leases and they'd gone to pay tuition, and they'd had babies and they bought cars, and they were rational actors making rational decisions for their future. And so we're suing the government right now about breach of contract, and I don't know. I mean, a conservative government to do what the majority can do whatever they want. There's never been a case where, they did anything good about poverty. Conservative majorities don't. And so I don't think there's any hope that we're going to win, or, but it was so interesting. The diabetics their blood sugar spiked as soon as the cancellation happened. The psychotic folks had episodes, and the high blood pressure people spiked, and the chronic pain people got out of control and were, scrambling to get their meds increased, and the addicts all relapsed, and it was just like this, and they haven't been helped yet. They're worse off because of the cancellation and this feeling of being abandoned by the government. It's been so profoundly difficult. And I just would love to offer them hope. And yeah.
Okay, I just want to take a quick break and let folks know that you're listening to Community Technology on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Carlton. I'm speaking with my co-hosts, Diana Blackwell, Carlton Davis, Louise Huff, and we're speaking with Miss Ruth Westcott from Ontario, Canada, about her experience with the Basic Income Project. And so, Ruth, you were saying that the project ran for about 3 years and then it was abruptly canceled. Is that?
It was promised for 3 years, but it was canceled shortly after a year. And so that's what this class action lawsuit is about the breach of contract and not getting the money that we were fully expecting to get. So, but the conservative government is so powerful. I'm sure they can throw any number of lawyers at us and win. I don't harbor much hope about the case, but yeah, it was so helpful to be able to hear from people who had been on welfare like me for decades and talk about the difference between that with 800 stupid rules and being policed, and we're dealing with workers who had arbitrary power and no accountability, and being policed and being treated as guilty all the time, and then having this other remarkable experience. And the thing that there's a refrain that I heard over and over and over and over, and it was restoration of dignity. And how basic is dignity to well-being? If you want to try something, if you don't have well-being, how able are you to go and get a job? And how able are you to go to school? How able are you to be a community volunteer even? I mean, I see it in my community and these people who've been on social assistance for decades. I was the same as them. I was getting sicker and sicker and more disabled the deeper and deeper my poverty got. And there was no way out of that. The system is so badly designed. So one of the highlights of my little advocacy career was in an 8-hour workshop with the Ontario Basic Income Network and a bunch of academics and a bunch of brass, high-level civil servants from the government who you know, administer this terrible program. And I got to tell it like it is for 8 hours and have all these academics go, yeah, what she said, you know, and they could back up what I was saying based on things like the Scandinavian experience where they had, they called them the trust experiments. I'm sure you've probably heard of that, where they didn't give people more income, but they took away all the other punitive parts of delivering income, like no more rules. It was an unconditional gift of income. And what they discovered was people who got that freedom were much more likely to be well on their way to being self-supporting economically than the ones who were forced and policed. And calling that a trust experiment is beautiful because it engenders trust in the government, engenders trust in authorities, it engenders trust in community, and then that's what we want. That's exactly what we want, and that's what happened to me. You know, like first of all, in that assets program in 2011, I started doing public speaking about the need for advocacy and more programs like that, and about how assets for the poor programs were revolutionary, and then I was in basic income, and I right away started a volunteer project to teach public speaking, and I didn't need to get paid because I was getting basic income. I'm happy to be of service when I have enough, and I think most people are the same, you know, that it's just it's so good for people like me who are very poor, but it's just good for everybody. So
You know, that's amazing, Ruth. But both, you know, clearly, you know, just being able to survive without the intense struggle that UBI offers, but the impact that it has on both your physical health and your psychological health. That's a really powerful impact that maybe isn't talked about as much as it should be.
well, I get asked to do public speaking all the time, and it's you know, I'm involved in all the advocacy networks for basic income, so I see it all the time on my Facebook, but I think that most people don't really know the story. I think people are they'll all say it will cost too much. We can't afford that. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there about, you know, I mean, one of the criticisms I heard was we don't want to give low-income people with addictions more money because they will spend it on drugs. That's important to be able to address.
Wow. It looks like we've just been joined by Enno Schmidt.
Sorry for my delay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Enno. Enno is the founder of the Basic Income Initiative and Basic Income Referendum in Switzerland. He's been a long time co-host on our UBI segment. So welcome, Enno. We've just been talking with Ruth Westcott about her experience in Ontario, Canada.
Yeah,
and,
great.
Thunder Bay is the community. Is that where you are, Ruth? Thunder Bay, is that?
Yeah.
And she was just kind of talking about the impact that she was in a basic income project that was unexpectedly pulled away after a year, promised for 3 years and then pulled away.
Yeah.
And just the immediate impact on folks, both physical and psychological health, how it deteriorated. And we don't always think about the psychological stuff. related to just feeling good about yourself that having a basic income gives you. And over and above being able to pay the bills and keep food on the table, but just your psychological health about your whole approach to life, how that really just gets transformed when you have that kind of basic floor.
I think Dr. Evelyn Forget was the one who put it first in my head. I mean, she really got it. You know who that is, that analyzed the data from Mincome, from the Manitoba pilot in the 70s. And when I met her at NABIG at the North American Basic Income Conference in Winnipeg, and then again in Hamilton at McMaster University, she said, why do you think that it helps people so much, Ruth? And I wasn't sure, but she said she thought it was because the economic security gives people autonomy and it gives them empowerment so they could take back their life. And that's, that was it, because the 1,000 of us in Thunder Bay did exactly that in 1,000 different ways. And that's why it needs to be unconditional. That's how it works. And that's appropriate, and that is a beautiful thing.
Wow. So some of the other folks have some questions for Ruth, Diana, or Miguel, or Doris. I'm mute, Diana. You muted.
Right, I'm sorry, right. Okay, I wanted to let Carlton and Doris and Miguel ask some questions first, because I probably have 15 million of them. Carlton, would you like to go first? No, he's there. He might be trying to unmute.
Yeah. How about Miguel? Do you have some questions for Ruth, Miguel?
Well, yes, I do. How did it come to be that your UBI was initially sponsored by the government? Yeah, how did it initially become sponsored by the government instead of private enterprise?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. The premier was open to ideas, and I guess, I had been networking with basic income activists for since 2016, and let me see, that was, I was, so it was shortly after that, and we had a Canadian senator who published a very important document about poverty, and he'd been recommending basic income for 30 years before that. Okay. So I didn't realize the basic income community had been around that long, and I was new to it, for not very long before the actual pilot, before I was enrolled. So I don't know the answer to that question, but it's very vulnerable when a political party is in power and they are funding it, obviously. So you make a good point.
Yeah, because that brought up the thought of how do we, coming into the program with the government control, how do we allow those? Because one of the things that you said is like the restoration of dignity. When it's government control, there's normally some kind of control to it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's really like it needs to be a nonpartisan issue, and I the political system, I don't know. I was starting to think about how it's good for everyone, about how the statistics that Dr. Evelyn Forget published about the crime rate going down during the 1970s pilot in Manitoba it's just profoundly important. We're talking about people's stress, people's health improving and their stress going down. And that was reflected in the rate of domestic violence. You know, like the rate of domestic violence during COVID in Ontario escalated like crazy. And that's, you know, economic security is so important.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Carlton, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to know that if with this having a certain amount of government restrictions and control, and they worry about the drugs situation that you was talking about, maybe it goes to people who might want to use. Why they don't have a certain program attached to it? Not as a stipulation, just something that you would want to do, community cleanup. Because right now, throughout West Harlem and overlapping into Central and East Harlem, residents are starting to clean up their own. They starting to show force in the streets, which is lowering crime, providing, stipends, which in UBI talk can be virtually the same thing, if not more, than just a regular stipend, to help people elevate their self-esteem. So are there any kind of programs that could be applied to what you were stating earlier, as far as, they stopping the program, they're not sure if it's, going to the people who really want to uplift themselves and uplift their self-esteem?
I love that. I'm involved with a speaker school in Toronto that raises money for former gang members who are, doing time for serious crime, and it's called Flip the Script, and it's all about changing your life. And I'm 30 years sober, so that could be me. It's grace God, right? I am very very grateful. I know during the Ontario pilot, there was a lot of criticism from certain parts of this community. We have a large Indigenous Native Canadian population in Thunder Bay, and there's a lot of racism in this town, and there was a lot of hate directed towards low-income people who were going to be getting more money, who were Indigenous, because the association is that they will drink it and they will spend it on gambling and spend it on drugs. And we know that Indigenous people are overrepresented in poverty. But what I saw was when people who were addicted got basic income, they did better. And we saw people sign up for pain management and because of this relief of the stigma, because of this dignity that they felt, they were more willing to seek healthcare and establish a relationship of trust with service providers and start to lower the amount of street drugs they were buying, increase the amount of medication for pain. And over time, because it takes a long time for adults hurt as kids to learn how to trust. And that's the opportunity that they had, but it was interrupted. But we had one guy who was in the business of dealing, and he became an electrician. So everything you thought, I just wanted to say to them, those people, everything you thought you knew is wrong. And I'm a big fan of the work of Johann Hari, that British guy who talks about Rat Park. Do you know his work? You give rats a chance to drink cocaine water, or you give them Rat Park, where they have everything that a rat needs to be happy, like a rat girlfriend, and they can play with rat balls, and they can have rat food, and they can have a rat party, and they don't go for the cocaine because their needs are getting met. That's like a very bad paraphrase of his study, but I know that's true. And that's, I think that's important. But as in terms of, I was a volunteer in the needle program before COVID, giving out rigs to the still suffering addicts. And that was an education for me, because I'm an abstinence girl, right? And I was never involved in street stuff. I was just a bar drinker. But I wanted to learn, and there were a lot of people that were suffering, and you know, they did just spend more money on crack cocaine. So we need to address that. We need to own that and address that and find a way to be of service to, you know, because we need to love on these people. They're my people. It could be me.
Yeah, sure. Or any of us. Yeah. Just want to let our listeners and viewers know this is WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. You're listening to Community and Technology. I'm Stu Reed. I'm here with my UBI, Universal Basic Income co-hosts, Diana Blackwell, Schmidt, Carlton Davis, Doris Huff, Miguel Walters, and very special guest, Ruth Westcott from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Enno, would you like to have some questions or comments for Ms. Westcott?
Not directly, but I just sent a link to an interview I made in Montreal with a physician about income and health, and she's talking very, very interesting about the relationship between income and health. So because many diseases are caused by poverty, and an unconditional basic income that does not judge the people, that does not control the people, would help so much, not only because of the money, but because of this is given unconditional and unconditional. That's what you said. This is so important that it is unconditional. It is not simply the amount of money. Of course, the money is very important, but that is also what my friend Sarah Davala from India told me about the pilot project and other people.
Oh, I know him, yeah.
Yeah. And he also said, and also people in Brazil who made a basic income by themselves in a little village, that the most important point is it is given unconditional. It is given in appreciation of you, not judging you, not putting you in cases and boxes and programs and all that. So this is the most important impact of an unconditional basic income, that it is not this control program. It's not your function. It's not your disability or whatever. It is just because you are you. And I will send you a second link to a video I made in Montreal with a woman from Vancouver. And this interview is about basic income and prostitution. So basic income and ending prostitution. And I think this is one of so many issues and facets of this. And this is not only with regard to prostitution as we know and think immediately, but so many work situations of so many people today are like prostitution. It is really to
coercion, yes.
Yes. So, and I think it gives you more independence to say no. It gives you more opportunities to don't take any bullshit job, any dirty job with a horrible boss in horrible circumstances with a very low wage. It gives you more independency and strengthen your self-esteem to look, what is my life and what can I do? And this lady from Vancouver, for example, told me that, of course, the money is a reason for prostitution for the women and sometimes men, but it is that they don't find the way they want to live, and any stupid bullshit job is not the life for them. And this is the same when they want to step out of prostitution, that there is no economic security, and that holds them into the prostitution. And so an unconditional basic income, this is just one case, but you can make a link to so many jobs where people are, and that's not called prostitution, but it is like, and people have no choice. So, and this is why people are looked as people who are doing dirty job. It's not always the job is not always dirty. Jobs are mostly this so-called dirty jobs or undesirable jobs are so important for society because you service so massively to the society and other people. But because people look down to you, that you have no choice than to make this bad paid job. That makes the job dirty. The lack of appreciation, The lack of value that is given to you by other people, that makes the jobs dirty. And with non-conditional basic income, you have much better chances to first to say no to what you don't want, and second to negotiate a higher wage if this work is so necessary, like many of those bad paid jobs are, and why not getting a higher salary for this, you know? Salary is also an appreciation, but with non-conditional basic income as a safe, secure floor, we become a society where our values and what we believe in has a better influence of everything we can do.
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. You know, I know we've talked on our show previously, you know, just about the whole concept that, you know, a lot of us call economic slavery, where, you know, there's no longer chattel slavery like Black folks had to endure when we first came to this country. But today so many of us are locked into undesirable, unfulfilling, low-paying jobs just to survive. You know, what I would call economic slavery, where we have very few choices, and we're locked in. And as Ruth was saying, there's just no real acknowledgement of the value of your worth in doing that job. And as Enno just pointed out, and not only are you looked down on and not valued, you're not compensated appropriately either. That might help if the compensation were significantly higher. But you know, that's something that I think UBI, unconditional basic income, can help to mitigate. It's a big job though, because you know, so much of the ethic in this culture is, oh, you know, you've got to get a job, and you know, you got to work for a living and pull yourself up by bootstraps, and maybe it's not a job you like, but you got to do it anyway. And just the whole mindset that you've got to work, whether or not it's fulfilling, whether or not it's something that really moves your soul, helps you grow. And I think that's a very destructive mindset, I think.
Okay.
Capitalism is based on having poor people to force them into the lowest jobs on offer, though, right? So we need to, how do we move past that model? It's going to take some time.
Doris hasn't spoken yet, so could we see if Doris has a question? Did I do this? Doris? Stu,
No,
can
I have no question, because what they're saying is pretty much what I'm saying. Is like you said, when we living in a poverty level, and we're not being compensated for what it is that we do. And if we get more, we can get more people involved if they can get more than a stipend, like Mr. Carlton Davis said. It's just more is needed for a lot of so many tenants around here to.
You might just
So,
went off. Okay, he's back.
Doris?
Miguel, you have something you wanted to add?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I have a question. How did crime, I will say, what happened to crime during this program? I know you said it went just a little bit over a year, but how was the crime during that time? Did it increase, decrease, or remain the same?
We don't know. One of the most unfortunate parts of the cancellation is that the Ford government canceled the data collection. So what would have been valuable data for like around the world was never collected, and it was meant to be.
Yes, but not even. But I'm going to say this, Ruth. Not even at the data. Did you notice something different in the community? Did you see less people actively stealing? Did you notice that there was less break-ins? Did you notice anything different among the community?
Well, there's 100,000 people in Thunder Bay, and there were 1,000 of us in the pilot. And I didn't get to meet most of those people. It was very difficult. We didn't, you know, the government didn't give us a list of who, and they stayed anonymous for the most part. So it was, I mean, one of my main tasks as a research assistant on a study being done by 4 universities after the cancellation was to recruit them. And so I used media. I was on TV a lot. I was using my blog, and I didn't have 80,000 people signing up. I had Facebook reach of 100,000 hits, which is a different animal. I don't understand all this stuff, but there were people from all around the world coming to find out what's going on in Thunder Bay, and it was quite a lot of hate locally directed towards the vulnerable people that were in the pilot because of the racism in the town, and because of the, you know, probably jealousy of the fact that, you know, the few people randomly got picked and most people didn't get picked. There's a really high rate of poverty here, a really high rate of addiction here, really bad crime problem. Now we've got a lot of gangs and guns and trap houses, and it's just and COVID, now we've got all the overdoses that going up 30%. So it's like Gotham City. And it's just a kind of, there might have been a blip in the increase in crime, but the increased trend is alive and well and going in the wrong direction at the moment. So it's sad to say, but we badly need an intervention. And you know, I think economic security is the way to go. I know when we talk about the number of people on welfare who have disabling conditions, you need, like, to be on the disability part of that program, you have to be, you know, significantly disabled. And a lot of these are chronic health issues that people have. And all those chronic health issues are correlated to adverse childhood events. And so the medical system and the psychiatric system and the jail system and the social, you know, the social workers are very ill-equipped to address issues born in insecurity, in an insecure childhood. You know what does address that? Security. And that explains why my people did so beautifully and so quickly. I know my experience as a kid who was born a ward of the state, and I was in care, and I was injured, and I was tossed around, and I was adopted in an abusive place. And it's like a story that you hear a lot. It's sad to say, but I remember getting basic income and saying to my assistant, "Is this what having a family is like?" It's so sad, but that's my experience. That's what it was like to feel safe, to feel taken care of, to feel like I had hope, to feel, I mean, it's so visceral, it's so profound. And I wish that for everyone.
Wow, that's powerful.
If I may just quickly, again, my name is Miguel. Because I'm just relating back to what Carlton spoke of earlier, because when I first heard about UBI, those were some of the things that came to my mind, is like, you know, there should be something attached to it. And then after hearing, and I believe it was Enno that I first heard it from, that it's unconditional. And then I had to relate it back because I do have a history of a substance abuse counselor. And what I had found out, that when people feel better about themselves, they would normally make the choice to not use. And I found out when we tried to assist them or make them go to NA groups or AA groups and stuff like that, they found the struggle hard, because a lot of times they found that insecure piece of that financial piece. So if I do get clean, then what? I have no job. I don't, you know, I don't have that financial security to kind of like to do the things that I need to do to feel better about myself, which holds them into that situation. So to go back what Carlton said, what I kind of learned with the UBI is it allows people to make a choice. And that's the beautiful, to me, that's the beautiful thing about this program. It allows, it's unconditional, it's nothing attached. It allows the person to grow with that sense of security that UBI gives them. So I just thought I wanted to share that.
Nobody could take that away. Even if they cancel the pilot, that shit is real and that's lasting and that matters.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Okay, we've got about 5-6 minutes left. What haven't we talked about? You want to come back in? You're a little bit late. What other questions or comments you have for Ruth?
I don't know, Ruth, whether you told that too, the impact on education. So that in that experiment in Canada, young people went back to school to get a better education. So this is one point, and maybe you can say one word about this too. And before that, I just want to make that relationship. If jobs and if dependency is like it is today, and if the only value we have is to get a job to survive, then education is the same way, you know. People are trained to get a job. This is not education what it should be. It's not to unfold the capacities of people. It's not to listen to the children, what they are interested in. It's not to help them to come to a lifelong learning. It's not to improve their capabilities. It's just to train them to fit in a box. And the experiences in that project in Canada made evidence in some cases that young people want to go to school and want to have a better education and want to know more if they have the opportunity for that. Can you say one word about that?
That happened to me. The first thing I did was sign up to apply for an internship with an architect who's the most famous co-housing architect in the world, and she had a scholarship for $10,000 for her year-long program, and I didn't get it. But everybody I met was doing something like that. They were making plans for the future, and many enrolled in college, and that guy went to back to finish his electrician training and so on. And then we saw that in the Mincome experiment. I worked for the documentary filmmaker, Ken Fisher, who made the film about Mincome. And I was hired by Floyd Marinescu to distribute that in the library system. And that project didn't work out, but it's a good project. And the story was that giving people basic income did not result in people quitting jobs, except for two categories. One was single moms stayed home if they could to look after kids, and the other was high school boys finished their high school. And we probably want them to quit a job and finish high school. In 1975, that was a good choice. And I think that is what we will see in a basic income this year, and that's exactly what we want. I'm still involved in co-housing. There's a group in Thunder Bay that is trying to build a tiny home, affordable tiny home community and grow food. And it's around a Waldorf school that's already been going, and they have chickens, and we're going to have goats, and it's a cross-country ski park. And that's the kind of education that I love, that I believe in, that is very spiritual and very holistic and connected to the earth. And so wish me luck with that. I don't know how to get government funding for tiny homes, because it brings the property values down, you know what they say, but if there's a will, there's a way. And it's a pleasure to meet you and everybody today. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you for
so wonderful to be amongst.
Let's just go around. Any final comments, Mr. Davis? You have any final comments to make on the topic?
Yes, well, I hope the program do fall in all 50 states. It'd be great. because we really don't need poverty. Low middle class is excellent for a lot of people. Living in public housing, we have people that have 5 and 6 flat screen TVs, and you know what I'm saying, and just off the jobs, and they struggling, you know, because the high price. But something, once again, of the nature of having more than just a stipend is beautiful to end poverty. And you have a low middle class, which everybody could pass through. There'd be enough finance in the country to pass everybody through. If you have mental health issues, you'd be able to have a housing. Some of that money could go to a program for mental health and hygiene, and could refresh you, re-energize you. At least you know that you have a meal coming in and a roof over your head. And it put an end to the poverty state of, you know, having $56 a month and a line of credit with WHA. Those that don't know the acronym, that's Welfare Housing Allowance, which comes from the military, having VHA and BHA, Viable Housing Allowance and Basic Housing Allowance. So they implemented WHA, Welfare Housing Allowance, with a line of credit. And that's what we're getting in public housing. And we're bringing, and everything else is coming with it. But we don't have any structure for those new residents to stand on. There's no social service here anymore. Community operations been going since 2016, 2017.
Okay, Ms. Huff, any final comments?
Who, sorry?
I was asking Doris Huff whether or not she had any final comments.
Yes, I'm just gonna piggyback on what the young man said. It's like this, we can take that money and put it to other things like services for the teens, services for social workers here, because there's so many people in our development that can use that money towards something else, like in a good way. So social services to help them, or to turn around and to help some of the seniors that are very low in poverty, help them in some way, help them to pay a bill or help them to get food on their table every month.
Thank you, Joyce.
Okay, Mr. Walters, final comments?
Well, yes, my final comment is I think this is a great idea. I think UBI would be a great benefit to the community and to the individuals that do, you know, get a chance to participate in this until it can be, you know, spread it out to more people. But yes, I love this, and I will be back to continue to hear what's going on.
Okay. And Diana Blackwell, closing remarks as the brains behind all of us coming together, the driving force.
Gee.
The force majeure.
Thank you. Well, look, I really appreciate you, Ruth. I heard a lot, but I'm going to take 5 things that you said. You said it felt like safety. You felt safe. You had hope, and it felt like a family. Then you said it gave autonomy, and it gave power. And that's what I desire for those that are in need to have. And we're going to grow this. I really thank God for the team that I have, with Enno and then Stu providing, the platform to get the word out. We're going to continue teaching, but we want to do a pilot. And, my goal is to get everybody just ready to receive, because it's not just, I don't want just to hand it to people. I want them to understand why you have it, and it's free to spend it the way you want to, and have no guilt, but feel safe and have hope, and let it be a family to you, yet be powerful with it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Ruth Westcott, for taking the time to speak with us, and hope to have you back again on the show sometime.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to all our team, Enno Schmidt, Carlton Davis, Miguel Walters, Doris Huff, and Ms. Diana Blackwell, and to our engineer, Mr. Dougie. Thank you all. You've been listening to Community and Technology on WHCR 90.3 FM. Stay tuned. See you next week.
Thanks. See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Therese.
Again, a Democrat-run state, a Democrat-run city.
You know how it is?
No excuse whatsoever for the looting and the violence. None whatsoever. I think to be able to protest is totally legitimate, totally reasonable. And I think that the looting is just, as the victim's father said, do not do this. It's not what my son.
Was always my favorite battleground story. I love the